Buongiorno a tutti, I am Paolo Sironi, your host of The Banker's Bookshelf. The Banker's Bookshelf is a podcast in which I invite authors and researchers of the most interesting books and publications about the banking present and its fintech future. And in this episode 18, I have invited Elisa Farri and Gabriele Rosani for a conversation inspired by their new book, The Harvard Business Review Guide to Generative AI for Managers. Elisa and Gabriele, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
For having.
I guess everybody knows Elisa and Gabriele already because they've been authors of material on the HBR for multiple years. So they have an outstanding literature out there. But this year they made something special. They just published just a few weeks ago this generative AI guide for managers. And this is super important because generative AI is becoming the core of many conversations in all institutions worldwide. They actually work for the management lab of Capgemini, so they have access to clients and conversations across industry in every part of the world, of which also financial services. And I'm sure that they will bring to the surface some examples that enable you to compare and contrast what happens at the worldwide level. But what I want to discuss here is the core message of the paper, which is basically how managers would use generative AI. So before we deep dive into the content, Elisa or Gabriele, what would be your elevator pitch? Why the readers should read the Generative AI for Managers guide?
Well, the reason is simple. We are at the dawn of a new capability, which boils down to effective collaboration between human and artificial intelligence. And most of managers in today's organization, they're simply not equipped with this capability. So our goal is to help them embark on this learning journey.
Okay, sounds very good. And I'm sure that the goal will be reached.
Thank you.
Now, there's a nice sentence that I learned from Christian Keller, the chief economist of Barclays Bank. We hosted him for a Banker's Bookshelf episode last year about his paper, AI Revolution. He said that automation is blind to the color of your color. So that's intersects the activity not only of employees, but also the managers working with employees up to the level of the executives. Yet in the industry, there is definitely a broader consensus of the fact that the biggest impact of generative AI for their work would be an element of augmentation. Now, we will figure out if Elisa and Gabriele agree with this perspective or not. But therefore, the question comes spontaneous. So, Elisa, how do you describe the way managers work with generative AI?
Well, actually, the hard truth is that very few managers are using generative AI on a daily basis. So sorry to bring bad news.
I bet most of them are in our audience, but in our audience, we have also some that are not using it. So let's make sure that all the others learn how to do that. Why this is so?
Well, based on our research, we have found different reasons. But before I explain the main reasons why very few managers are using Gen AI, let's make a difference, because there are some managers in organizations who simply do not have access to generative AI models. This is typically a choice made by the organization, and so they're simply not equipped with the tool. But then there are other managers, the vast majority, that they do have potentially the access to generative AI models, but they don't use it. And so if we focus on this subset of managers, what we found is that either they are not aware that they can use generative AI in their daily work, and so they are simply clueless that this could be a potential for enhancement in their daily job. Or even if they are aware, and in most of the cases they are so because they are using it for personal use, they do not have the skills and the capability to extract value from AI when it comes to professional use. So these are the two main reasons. Either they are unequipped or they're simply unaware of AI potential.
Okay, that's very interesting. Like, I make usage of generative AI every day as I have access to the IBM models and those that we also have a platform, but I understand that other organizations and corporations might not have yet deployed that capability for their key employees. Yet I was reading a survey by Watson, which is coming from an analysis of the opinion of 800 senior business leaders across industries. And the Wharton's findings indicate that weekly usage of generative AI has nearly doubled from 37% in 2023 to 72%, which is a staggering number, an increase in 2024, with significant growth in previously lower adopting departments like marketing and HR, according to what Wharton says. How does this compare to the perspective that you're building in your book?
But I think we found very similar statistics because also our research institute conducted a survey on more than 1,000 managers, and it's true that the weekly adoption is almost 75%, and definitely there is an increase. But you should look at the daily adoption. Because if you look at the weekly adoption, so people who use Gen AI once a week or even 2-3 times a week, it's like saying that I'm going on Google or on internet once a week or 2-3 times a week. So wouldn't it be strange? I mean, it wouldn't be part of my daily routine. It wouldn't be the way I work. It wouldn't be my standard way of working. It's the same with Gen AI. We should look at the daily adoption. And if we look at the daily adoption statistics, we find that only 15% of managers uses Gen AI at least once a day. So it's a completely different number, but it says a lot. It says that today the adoption has not changed. The routine is not has not been integrated in the way managers work, and that's a problem because we see a knowing doing gap. Basically, a lot of managers that talk about Gen AI, but then when you ask specifically, okay, are you using it in your daily work? And they are a little bit hesitant. They say, sometimes, but it's not their first thought when they do their daily work. And so we wrote the book exactly for this reason, because we saw this gap, and we would like to contribute and to help managers to embrace Gen AI more confidently and to make it a routine in the way they work.
So, Gabriele, I like the fact that your book is grounded and not emphatic, because that makes it practical. And that's an important aspect. When we invest time to read, we want to make sure that we really get something practical out of that. Now, what you're saying is that the frequency of usage identifies how much transformative power that technology has. So definitely technology grows these days almost at the speed of light. We used to say exponential growth. Clearly, our capability to use it is not exponential, because things need to happen. Elisa briefly mentioned is not available as a method to everyone. So first of all, and then you need to start familiarizing with that. You need to understand effectively how to use it. And then you might start transforming effectively the way you work, the way you operate in true augmentation, which also means changing the way we work. So, Elisa, can you crystallize once more why the adoption in terms of systematic adoption is not so high as many pretend, so that we can figure out also which are the remediation measures to take to make sure that this is effectively used?
Yeah. So as I said before, there are some exogenous factors that can impact whether or not managers are adopting it on a daily basis. But there are also some endogenous variables. So what is emerging from our research is that there are some character traits that are shared by heavy users of generative AI. Just to name a few, let's think about curiosity. So most managers who are using it, multiple times an hour, not even a day, are showing a high level of curiosity. There are also, managers who declare, that they fall in love with new technologies, and so they can either be technical experts by DNA or not, but what they do have in common is this passion about the technology. So it's about curiosity, it's about love and passion, but it's also about, an intrinsic desire of acting as a responsible leader. And let me elaborate a bit on this. The main reason why we keep saying that this is an important capability is because most of pioneers share with us the need, to become familiar with the technology that has a lot of benefits and advantages, but on the other side is also posing, a lot of risks and triggering also some concerns. And we heard many times from these pioneers that they want to know what the technology can do in order to be able to make responsible decisions about what they would like or not like, the technology to do for them or in their organization. And so these are the three main commonalities of managers who are becoming heavy users of generative AI. So curiosity, love and passion, and the need for becoming responsible role models of AI.
So, Gabriele, which is your major trait? Curiosity, love and passion, or the need?
I think is the curiosity of applying new things to what I do. So, the case of management, for example, the question is how we can apply this technology on everything we do. Like, in my case, it's more researching or writing and then brainstorming and then, preparing for a session or evaluating some problems. So for everything you do, to kind of force yourself to go Gen AI first. So to say, okay, if I hit a roadblock, should I ask AI how AI can help me? What if I use AI on this? So there's a sort of question that will, it's a sort of a nudge to push you trying using AI, because sometimes I see also, colleagues or in other cases, and they do things in the traditional way, but then they say, oh, maybe I could have done this together with Gen AI. Maybe I could have got a different, more valuable output. So it's an afterthought. It should become a first thought. So you should go there directly.
I like this example of a first thought, and really the way you explained it is like many may look at the productivity opportunity with generative AI like I'm doing this thing faster, right? So essentially, I'm not changing the way I'm organizing myself. I just take that piece of action or some action I have to take, and I just sort of do them. With Gen AI, I still do them, but it goes faster. But the biggest advantage may be to be curious to restart our process when we prepare for something using some of the generative AI tools to recreate that structure of thought in different ways, and they may be very beneficial. So it's like, I think you use this word of using AI as a thought partner. Am I correct?
Exactly. So the idea to go beyond efficiency, productivity, which is important, of course, but as you said, it doesn't really change the way you do things or your approach. And as a thought partner, can be really be used to, to challenge yourself, or to think in a different way, or to having new perspectives, or to ponder different dimensions, or also asking for analogies that you can bring from other industries. So these sort of things that are really creating value. And the idea of a thought partner is that you engage into a dialogue with the machine. So you don't simply ask and wait for an answer, but you try to get into this dialogue. It's a back and forth, and through follow-up question, and then you give a feedback, you give more context, and the machine elaborates, and it's a sort of a flow, multiple steps with follow-up question. And at the end, you realize that you really create value out of this dialogue, out of this conversation. Of course, you bring yourself, your context, your nuances, your judgment, and the machine helps you in the thinking process.
That's actually very interesting because we are experiencing in 2025 a shift, if you like, from large language models to large or small reasoning models. Now, organizations tend to funnel people into certain ways of working and want to optimize those ways of working. So basically do this series of activities one after the other and always do it the same way, but sometimes it doesn't really work out well. So the good manager is the one that can see the problem from the outside in, if you like. So they're like, okay, maybe I have alternatives that I could consider, that I haven't considered. And that enriches the process because it's like critical thinking and moving forward. And your brain, the human brain, is very good at doing that. Now, the first developments of generative AI were very much like corporations. It's an optimization algorithm. I need to go from A to Z and I need to be very fast and get down there. And maybe some of the algorithms get into a rabbit hole and they cannot get out of that. It's called hallucination. But if you look at DeepSeek, what makes DeepSeek interesting, apart from the discussion around the cost of running those models, is that they introduced a step which basically makes DeepSeek reason or operate like a human would do. So basically in the facing uncertainty, so the necessity basically to resolve a problem that is really unforeseen, it tries. It's like what if sees different paths to figure out where to get there. Now, if you roll back as AI is going in that direction, managers can also do the same. Like they can start rethinking, okay, maybe I could do this differently, right? And have a new tool that helps me to do that before was not available. So those which are curious to rethink might be able to think faster and think better. In essence, that I guess is the idea, correct?
Yes.
And as you have a thought partner, it means that you're not thinking alone. You're co-thinking. So, which is a nice concept. It's like, people that, engage in a relationship. And now that can happen with technology as technology is really changing. So what are these examples of co-thinking that you highlight in this book?
Yeah, I mean, there are many examples, but perhaps I can bring it a couple. For example, a manager preparing for important business development meeting with a client, B2B, for example. So in preparation, this manager can have sort of a strategic conversation with Gen AI. So considering this client, this is the strategy of this client, at least what we know. How can I put together, let's say, a good pitch or value proposition that may resonate with this client, and what are the attributes, what are the needs, what are the messages that could strike a chord there, and also how the client may react or having counter arguments to my pitch, and then how I can manage these objections in a compelling way. So I go there prepared, and I think it's a very powerful way for managers to rehearse, get prepared, and also maybe see what they were not seeing. Maybe something was missing, or maybe something was overlooked. And this process, this dialogue with the machine and thinking together was very helpful to the manager to get there more prepared and also ready to handle objections, and maybe also to simulate this conversation with clients, because now there are some features like the voice to voice, and so you can really having a sort of simulation installation and get there prepared.
So, Gabriele, I want to ask you something, another example, but before I get there, I want to intersect the thought of Elisa, because still we want to learn how we start with co-thinking. And then we go back to another practical example that links in financial services more clearly. So, Elisa, how to start with this co-thinking?
Well, first of all, you need to embrace the right mindset. It's all about seeing AI as a sparring partner. So to have a conversation with, so you talk with AI, you don't simply ask. When we compare this conversational mindset to the common narrative, of using AI for productivity, typically people embrace the click and wait. Okay, so they click a prompt and they wait for magic to happen. When you decide to embark in a co-thinking journey with AI, you start having a conversation. And so you roll up your sleeves and you talk as if you would do with a human colleague or a human expert. So mindset is imperative. Second, you need to force yourself to experiment daily. At least once a day, try out something new. I can understand that for most managers and people in our audience, you have crazy agenda. What pioneers are sharing with us is that they ask their team at least once a day, have you tried the generative AI? For what? Share with me what worked and what did not. And this is also a way, to collect new ideas and new learnings indirectly from their team. And then, once you embrace the right mindset and you force yourself to get your hands dirty at least once a day, the third step is to try to make it a habit. We said it before, Gabriele briefly touched upon this. Using GenAI does not come naturally. We know. So we're not also curious. We're not also, in love or passionate about AI. We understand this. But trying to embed it in the daily routine is an important step in order to make it, a habit of a GenAI-enabled manager.
So in essence, Elisa, what you're saying is that it's not anymore about ask, copy, and paste, but it's about talk and co-create, which is a completely different concept. And that is where we can excel in leveraging this new technology. But Gabriele, do we have some examples of financial institutions, so managers in financial institutions leveraging this, let's say, the right way?
Yeah, for example, in investor relations. So this is a real case of the head of investor relations, a U.S. company, preparing for the quarterly earning calls with analysts and investors, and so many different stakeholders. You need to make sure that your message resonates with the audience, is well understood, and there are no misunderstanding, because of course it's important, no? Because a word which is misunderstood could create a significant then implication in terms of market, and so they are very, very careful in what they write. But of course, it's difficult to test, and you can use the machine, any generative AI models, to take perspectives of different stakeholders. So you ask the machine, okay, this is the context. I have to go to this earning call, and those are the stakeholders. So let's take one by one and take wear the hat of this stakeholder, how they may react to this message. Could certain words or phrases create confusion or a misunderstanding, and how can I then adjust? So you kind of simulate how they may perceive, and then maybe react to this message. This is useful because if you do that for the main stakeholders, then you can adjust your message and make sure that it gets through. And that's very important for these calls. And also you can continue the conversation with Gen AI, saying, okay, what kind of questions in the Q&A session this specific stakeholder may ask, so that I can be ready also for tough questions and handle this question and be prepared.
I like this example because, as Elisa just said, this is not about something that automatically tells you the truth per se, but it's about something that can help you test your assumptions. So it doesn't mean that generative AI has better assumptions on a problem. By helping you to test those assumptions allows you to be more comfortable in moving forward, and in case also, right, finding a new way of approaching a problem and its solution that you didn't consider valuable before. So now we just provided a sneak preview into the content of this fabulous book, which is the Harvard Biz Review Guide to Generative AI for Managers. The book has been published just 2-3 weeks ago, and I want to tell our audience where they can find the book.
So they can find the book on Harvard Business Review website, on Amazon, and all the other major outlets.
So, Elisa, Gabriele, I thank you for the opportunity you gave to our audience to understand the content of your book. I invite everyone to go and buy it. It's interesting to read and it's very practical. I understand there will also be a toolkit associated with the book, correct? That helps people to use the content in practical ways. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, we're so obsessed with providing practical material to managers that we not only wrote, the guide, which includes already hundreds of ready-to-use prompts, but we also created with Harvard Business Review a digital toolkit, which is a collection of additional templates, worksheets, checklists that can help managers also trigger some internal discussions and brainstorming sessions with their team when it comes to experimenting with AI, either individually or within their teams.
Very good. So I remind all, the HBR Guide to Generative AI for Managers is a banker's bookshelf recommendation for everyone who wants to understand how banking managers can master the opportunity and the challenges brought into financial services by the development of generative AI. I invite everyone to stay tuned for more conversations with banking and fintech authors and researchers. Don't forget to subscribe to the Banker's Bookshelf. We are part of the Provoke Media podcast family, and we stream on your preferred platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and YouTube. Thank you very much and enjoy the jingle.